You are listening to Safe in Thy Sight by Dog öhrlund, narrated by Richard Atlee. Chapter 1. Friday the 17th of July. Nothing is more awful than the sound of an injured child. Ewert Truut had heard it before, but it had never been as bad as this. The little girl's scream pierced his body and soul, perhaps because he was holding Caillou, his beloved 5-year-old granddaughter, in his arms himself. 1 second can change everything, and up until a moment ago, life had been wonderful. The air was clear after the morning rain, and the trees were suffused with rays of sunlight. A beautiful afternoon full of hope. Caillou's warm little hand in his, her big eyes and mischievous grin, her red raincoat decorated with tiny cats. Her constant questions always made him smile.
"Grandpa, why do I have to go to nursery? I like it, but—"
Grandpa. Caillou was now the most precious thing he had. For a few moments, the world was transformed into a film where everything seemed to be playing at high speed. Ewert heard the unmistakable crack of a gun, and saw a dark-haired girl fall backwards as the teddy bear in her arms exploded into fragments. Looking back later on, he wondered if it really had taken several seconds. He'd flung himself down, pressing a stunned Caillou to the ground and trying to cover her body with his own as best he could. Ewert had groaned in pain as gravel pushed through his trousers into his kneecaps. At the same time, he shouted directions at the other people outside the preschool. "Everybody, get down! Someone's shooting at us!" Caillou started to cry.
"Grandpa! What are you doing? Grandpa!"
There were more screams now, from the children, from the adults. Ewert saw terrified parents running in all directions, desperately trying to grab other people's kids as well as their own. Some threw themselves to the ground or fled into the daycare center, while some ran away in panic. One woman stood petrified, her hands over her mouth, apparently unable to move. "Down on the ground!" Truut roared, signaling her to take cover. Caillou lay under him, crying. He stroked her back and whispered to her that it would be all right. But his words had no effect, and her little body shook with fear. Ewert cursed himself for leaving his service pistol at home. But it was Friday afternoon, and a shooting at Caillou's preschool was the last thing he'd been expecting when he'd snuck out early from the police headquarters at Kungsholmen. He desperately reached for his phone and pressed a speed dial number. As soon as he heard the emergency responder, he yelled, "Police Commissioner Truut here. I'm at the preschool in Wasserparken. Some bastard is shooting at children. Send everything you've got." He hung up without waiting for an answer, his thoughts racing inside his head. Should he protect Caillou or chase the shooter?
"Grandpa!"
Caillou sobbed.
"Why are we lying here?"
Truut had to muster all of his self-control to sound calm as he comforted her. He assessed the risks. If he stood up with Caillou in his arms, they would make a good target for the maniac who had opened fire. But it would be just as bad if they stayed where they were. Gently holding Caillou down to the ground with one hand, he rose carefully to his knees and used his free hand to shield his eyes from the bright sunlight as he scanned the park. Further away, people were reacting differently. Some didn't seem to understand what had happened and simply sauntered on unconcernedly. Truut had only heard one shot and wondered why. Was the shooter having problems with his weapon? He took the chance. Getting up as quickly as he could and trying to ignore the pain in his joints, Truut lifted Caillou in his arms. While his eyes darted from right to left in an attempt to spot the crazy shooter, he hurried towards Udengatan. Nothing. Just ordinary people. Dog walkers, mothers and fathers with prams, adults carrying shopping bags, youngsters wearing headphones, their eyes fixed on their mobiles as they walked past. Where was the shooter? What kind of weapon did he have? Was it a mentally ill person who planned to rush into the preschool and massacre everyone? His police officer...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?